All right, guys, we're going to do a double video here. This is going to go in the wide receiver IQ and the DB IQ because we're going to talk about a mesh play. So if we watch this video here, this is a mesh. It's DK Metcalf on Marcus Lattimore, so two very good players. And it's a mesh by the Seattle Seahawks. And we're going to just take a quick peek as to what works in terms of, for the wide receivers, what are we thinking about in terms of IQ? And then also for the DBs, what are we thinking in terms of IQ? So the mesh play is two short routes by two slot receivers designed to go over the middle of the field so that when they cross, so if we're taking one wide receiver, we'll run across, and the other wide receiver will run across. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to pick for one of the receivers, hoping that the DBs kind of get crossed up and somebody becomes open. So all the time, or most of the time, it should be scripted as to who is the receiver that's lower. That way you're not running into each other. So for the wide receivers, really what you need to just understand is where your teammate's going to be in terms of depth. So are they going to be at 5 and you're going to be at 4? So depending on the depth, it's really just, you just need to know where you need to be. But what's going to happen is if you know that you have someone man-to-man, they're going to be trailing you and they're going to be following you. So what you're trying to do is trying to create as much separation as possible and put them in a bad position. The way that we put DBs in a bad position is by attacking at them and then breaking away quickly, turning it into them kind of having to catch up. And once they play catch up, that's when they get out of position. That's when they can be picked a little bit more easily. So on this play here, from the wide receiver perspective, for DK, he does a good job with his depth because him and the other receiver don't hit each other. The problem with what he does, though, is he just kind of attacks a little bit inside, so he doesn't go at Lattimore, and he tries to use this little arm bar and just rolls it across the field. And now Lattimore was able to get hands on, slow him down, and then stay with him, and there's no pick here. So, and once DK gets across, he kind of starts drifting back up the field into where Lattimore's going, allowing him to break up the pass. So it is a good idea for him to go up the field, but just doesn't do a good job kind of finishing here. So my recommendation to wide receivers, younger wide receivers, would be on this for DK, would be stem out a little bit more and then make your break and come across. So what DK did, like I said, was he kind of came inside here, didn't really create any separation and kind of lazily broke it off. And then as he drifted back out, now the track for Lattimore was he was able to stick on him here. He gets pushed off a little, but then now he's able to take an angle to meet DK here, and that's where he breaks up the pass. Okay, so for the wide receivers, like I said, I would attack and kind of press that guy out a little bit more. So now as you make that break sharp across the field, they're having to chase from a further distance away. And if he took a better angle, that's the other piece. If DK takes a better angle here, these guys are a little bit far away. So I think if he was able to press and stem outside a little bit more here and then make a sharper cut in here, he could have just come at a very high angle and he would have hit the high angle here and he would have come right underneath this receiver going here, and that would have picked Lattimore. So I just think DK just could have been a little bit clean here. So I don't know if it wasn't necessarily designed for him. I would really think it was designed for him because him being the under person, that's usually who the pick is for. So just a thought as a wide receiver, just to be able to create a little more separation and get a little bit more open. You want to have a little bit sharper of a break, and you want to kind of push them outside and then be able to, like I said, take that angle, and you want to cross right under that other wide receiver. That way you really create a pick. In terms of the DBs, the best thing you can do is if you're covering in the slot here and it seems like it's going to be a mesh play, Lattimore does a good job getting hands-on without holding or doing too much to create a penalty. But once he gets to this point, really here, if you see a mesh or think there's a mesh, you want to stay right behind the wide receiver. So even if you get into a position of trail, you want to try and end up staying right behind them. So Lattimore does a good job of not going too far up the field And he does a great job with his closing speed here and attacking those hands. But like I said, if you get any hands on and slow him down a little bit, try to stay right behind him, because obviously the pick is designed if you're standing here. That's where that other receiver is going to cut across and essentially pick you. So if you stay at least right behind the wide receiver, as you get to this point, if you're staying back here, now you give yourself a chance to just run, get to him, and even if they make that catch, you're able to make the tackle, or like Lattimore does here is a good job, is just get those hands in attack and knock it away. But like I said, for those DBs, if you think that there's a chance and the other team runs a mesh play, just really make sure to try and get hands on, and then as they cut across the field, just get into a trail right behind them so you don't get picked, and just don't even worry about the ball. Don't watch the ball. Just get in a good position behind them, and then once you see those hands, you just put everything into it. You know, jump, dive, whatever you have to do, attack at those hands, and if worst case, if they make the catch, you just make the tackle and they get a 3 or 4 yard gain instead of a catch and a burst for 30 yards or 40 yards or something like that, because that's really what they're trying to create.